Okay, I think we hit the hour, so let's get started. So good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone, wherever you're joining us from. So my name is Johanna Siliakus, and I work with the Transport Sector Office at the Asian Development Bank. And I'd like to warmly welcome you again to today's webinar. And today we have a session on learning from implementing Urban Living Lab to accelerate e-mobility in emerging economies by Shritu Shrestha. The webinar series is organized under the umbrella of the e-mobility support and investment platform for Asia and the Pacific. This platform aims to build capacity and support the scale-up of financing of e-mobility initiatives. It's operated by ADB, co-implemented by UNEP, and co-financed by the Global Environment Facility, the GEF. You can see now a QR code on the screen. So if you want to join our e-mobility community under the platform to stay up to date on all of our activities, please fill in the assessment survey, which this link takes you to. We'll also share the link in the chat. And as part of this webinar series under the platform, we arrange webinars every 2 weeks. Now you can only see one webinar that's upcoming. That's because we will be going on a short mid of the year break, but we'll continue the series again around the middle or end of August. So we'll be sharing more information in due course about upcoming webinars. Our next webinar and the last webinar before the break is with Mr. Michael Chang from Blue Wing Motors. He will present a two-wheeler electrification project in Indonesia. We'll also share the registration link to that webinar in the chat in a bit. So yeah, I think that's all for me. I'll hand over now to Tom Fleming from our implementing partner Integrated Transport Planning, and he will be moderating today's session. So Tom, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Johanna, and welcome everybody. So to begin with a few house rules. So microphones will be muted unless you are invited to speak. And importantly, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen if you would like to ask a question during the presentation. I will pick these up and put them to Shritu during the question and answer session at the end. Next slide, please. Okay, so now let me introduce our speaker for today's session, Ms. Shritu Shrestha. Shritu is a senior researcher at Wuppertal Institute's Urban Living Lab Centre, a UN Habitat collaborating centre, where she focuses on sustainable city policies, conducts environmental studies, and offers technical support for climate action and sustainable transport projects in developing regions. She's currently coordinating electric vehicle implementation projects across Asia. And in this webinar, Shritu will introduce some of the work of the Urban Living Lab Centre and specifically in the field of e-mobility. So without further ado, Shritu, I will pass it over to you to take us through your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. I hope you hear me well. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Tom, for the introduction. I haven't shared my screen. Just give me 2 seconds. All right. Please give me some indication if you can see my screen and hear my voice well.
Yes, all good, Shritu.
All right, great. Again, thanks, Tom. So as Tom mentioned, I'm going to present some background or setting a context on Urban Living Lab, what Urban Living Lab is actually, and then discuss on the learning from the implementation of e-mobility Living Lab on the Solutions Plus project. As Tom mentioned, I am a part of this Urban Living Lab Center, which supports the local capacity development and implementation-oriented projects in Asia, Africa, Latin America, and Europe. It is a collaborating center of UN Habitat and is co-hosted by MIT, Technical University of Berlin, and Wuppertal Institute. We work on approaches towards local implementation concept with wider transformative pathways. So just to understand what Urban Living Lab is. So Urban Living Lab can be considered as an arena, which could be bounded space at a geographical scale or institutional scale. And also it can be considered as an approach, which is a collaborative experiment for social, technical innovation engaging with multi-stakeholders. So the Urban Living Lab is operationalized by 5 key characteristics here, like or you can say 5 principles, including geographical embeddedness or identifying the geographical scale, experimentation of and innovation and learning via capacity building and peer learnings, participation and involvement of mainly public entities, users, private actors, knowledge institutions, and retaining decision powers at all the stages. And it also includes enable cooperation between different group of participants, identifying leaders or local champions, and involve stakeholders' needs to feel the ownership of the activities. And lastly, evaluation and refinement. Evaluation refinement of the experiment for local adaptation and scaling them up. You can see more and detailed information about the Urban Living Lab in the report on the right side, developed or prepared by Wuppertal Institute, and it was supported by GIZ. So as a key principles indicated in the earlier slide, Urban Living Lab also enhances stakeholder cooperation than working in silos. So these are like few benefits that we want to list out. As I mentioned, it enhances stakeholder cooperation, allow flexibility in experimentation of innovation rather than rigid planning rules. So it also allows testing solutions fitting to the context, and lastly, also targeted at scaling and replication of successful solutions rather than leaving the project just as a pilot. So now we move into the implementation of Living Lab. So before we implement the Living Lab as a starting point, there is a need to identify the key stakeholders to be engaged with, and also form a co-development group to work towards the agreed vision. Then the other phase is to act and impact, which is also a main phase of this implementation, for which one can follow a 5 systematic approach through 5 I's framework, which we call I framework, which are inform, inspire, initiate, implement, and impact. I will explain in the following slide on how we follow these steps in the Solutions Plus project. So Solutions Plus project, just give you a background. So this is a EU-funded project whose objective is to accelerate transformational change towards sustainable urban mobility through innovative and integrated e-mobility solutions, mainly for public and shared mobility. It started in 2020, right at the starting phase of COVID, and ending this month in June 2024. 47 project partners are involved in this project, representing city government, research institute, academia, industry, UN organizations, and also transport operators. We are working on 10 urban living labs, including Asia, Africa, Latin America, and Europe. As I mentioned, these 5 I's, so we also follow this 5 I framework in this project, mainly to inform e-mobility solutions, to boost capabilities of stakeholders, inspire stakeholders, and create a platform for collaboration, initiate co-development of pilot projects via partnership, and implement those innovative e-mobility solutions and create a reference model, and lastly, assess the impact of those e-mobility solutions and support developing policies and plan on e-mobility sector. This is just an overview of living labs that I mentioned earlier in different cities. So particularly in Asia, we are working on conversion of diesel bus to electric, conversion of mini truck to electric, remodeling of all electric three-wheeler or Safa tempos and other light electric vehicles in Kathmandu. Shared electric two-wheelers services in Hanoi, multi-purpose e-quadricycle in Pasig, and 2 replication cities in Thailand, in Bangkok and Udon Thani. Other living labs, for example, in Africa, we are working on 3 electric two-wheelers in Kigali and electric three-wheelers in Dar es Salaam. Electric cargo bikes and light electric vehicles in Quito and Montevideo. These are the two cities in Latin America, and inverted pantograph for e-bus charging in Madrid, and e-kick scooters in Hamburg, these 2 cities in Europe. Now I jump to our activities in Asian cities and what we have learned so far through this process of implementing urban living lab in the Asian cities particularly. Initially in the project, we carried out the needs assessment with key stakeholders to understand and streamline the local needs. To boost the capacity, we have developed e-mobility toolbox and knowledge platform with online e-courses, and also organized various Asia regional and city-specific training, for which we have also cooperated with, while organizing these events, we also cooperated with various organizations such as ADB, UITP, UNEP, and ITF, and also carried out a very small, very impactful city events such as women drivers training in Kathmandu. For this, we have received the positive responses on the type and the topics of training, which has also supported the trainers particularly. However, we also realized that most of the events are considering the number of events that we have organized, we also realized that most of the events are targeted for policymakers and few technical ones for industry as well as for academia and users. In the second framework for the experimentation on the ground, we have reached out to local startups in each cities and selected one via local innovators call to boost the local industry. We want to have those local startups to be engaged so that their capacity would be boosted through this project, and so that we also have provided some seed funding. They work closely with city partners on EV prototype development and EV services implementation, depending on project type that the city selected. So while we are screening those startups in various cities, we see that there is a variation on the technical capacity and experiences. So some of the startups are mature, they are well experienced, while some of them are they have just done a few of those vehicle manufacturing and has less experience on developing those innovative ideas, but still they are willing to cooperate and work on it. So this was the variation of the startups experiences was our learning experience, and then within this stakeholder collaboration, with an aim to exchange learning, regional and interregional collaboration was also sought with various peer exchanges activities on various electric vehicle modes, such as we have carried out these peer exchanges on electric bus, electric two-wheelers, 2 and 3-wheelers, including site visits. So we also think that those hands-on site visits, peer exchanges were well appreciated by participants. But we also received a feedback that sometimes those international good practices learning are not readily adaptable and applicable in local setting. But still, it's a step forward to work on, and also to take the learning experiences, good practice learning experiences, into the city. We were also in contact with national and local authorities to support on EV policy development, and engaged with academia and development organizations to identify the synergies, and also on the knowledge transfer. And then, as we have already engaged with the startup, as I mentioned, the local startup, and with the city partner in the project, where they have developed the EV prototype and EV services, as you can see here in the pictures, in these different type of vehicles and services in different cities. So to boost the capacity of local startup, and also to have their exposure, we have conducted the regional and inter-regional industry collaboration. For example, EU Asia, Asia, and also Asia and other region. As I mentioned, as the startup has different level of experiences and expertise, so this has been a good chance in terms of boosting their capacity, as well as develop the prototype with a good quality. This also aims to strengthen their business collaboration as well. I've mentioned a little bit some of those cooperation, for example, PEMMotion, which is based in Germany and Mexico, and Sazayatat, the public transport organization in Kathmandu, has jointly supported, PEMMotion has supported them for bus conversion, the batteries, which is the second life battery, manufacturing company in Germany, and UTT in Vietnam, and Tojo Motors in Philippines have collaborated on the battery components, on the implementing those battery components. And also we see a regional collaboration, like for example, the Tojo in the Philippines and Loka in Laos for the vehicle services, application development, and so forth. So this has been a good cooperation for development of those prototypes. While they are developing the prototypes, we also see that on the timely completion of this pilot projects, we have experienced some hurdles, which are due to lack of technical guidance or standards for targeted pilot. In the country or in the city, which resulted the need of detailed simulation and sometimes redo the failed attempts. Startups also faced a lengthy procurement process of components, because for this particular pilot, we are just procuring 1 or 2 units, which takes a time, and also processes for the components to arrive. And also we also experience on here some legal barriers in those parts. And also, as they are doing hit and trial, sometimes the fail attempts, and at the end, sometimes we also see that there has been some poor delivery of the startups, resulting some low quality. But again, that's a part of it, and the redo is in process. And lastly, availability of components is also an issue, because not all the components are readily available in the city or in the country. And sometimes when the components arrive, then there is the compatibility issues, which also has taken some time for the completion of that pilot. And then, despite those hurdles, startups and city partners were able to launch the completed pilots. So after launching, vehicle had the test operation and performance data collected. Those collected data and stakeholders engagement leads to a demonstration impact assessment. Those impact assessments, so with those impact assessment, these test and trial of the pilots has built the confidence to stakeholders and monitor the performance. Some learnings from the pilot operation were shared by the cities. For example, when Hanoi realized the need to have the robust e-mopeds as a share system while they use the regular e-moped for the passenger services. So they realized when they have deployed those vehicles, they have a feedback like those vehicles are too sensitive for the public shared system. So for the next phase, they are looking for a robust e-mopeds. While in Pasig, as the demo is about the passenger and cargo and utility services. Later, they extended they put extended trail or added the trail to expand the utility services. So after the demo has been completed, there is also learning to improve the services and improve the vehicle in general. So in general, the city believe that this R&D project or prototype support on policy development, as I mentioned, some of the cities does not have, or most of the cities does not have the detailed policy guidance and the standard for electric vehicle in general or light electric vehicle. So later, when city applied for the vehicle operating permit after this test and trial. However, there has been also some difficulty in receiving the approval. This has been tested, worked well. Maybe some of the demos has been tested for quite some time, but there has been some difficulty in receiving the approval. Due to some legal barriers, as the vehicle testing center are not equipped with testing those local manufacturing, and also, for example, the vehicle permit department doesn't doesn't have or follow the reference document due to unavailability of such documents. So they are also like they also need to be confidence to give the permit to those vehicles for the regular operation. So this has been also some hurdle, and this has also created some time to get the vehicle permit, operating permit, so to say. And then lastly, the project also carried out, as I mentioned, the impact assessment from the collected data, and also a stakeholders interview, consultation workshop, and analyze the scale of potential. So we also developed the policy papers on identified topics, and city EV roadmap was also developed. The cities identified as those policy papers and impact assessment reports are a key reference document for decision makers to see, as it is detailed out, especially the impact assessment report is detailed out, how the impact assessment or the KPIs that has been selected on financial, social, environmental, safety, and security and economical aspects. However, even doing this impacts assessment, ex-post assessment was difficult to carry out. As I mentioned, due to the delay in the prototype completion, even getting approval for the test operation. So sometimes, and in some cases, the ex-post assessment was difficult to carry out. And lastly, as all the pilots show the potential to scale up with economical, as I mentioned, these KPIs, the economical, social, environmental benefits. However, to scale it up, human resource capacity is yet to be improved to shift to the industrial production. So these are like 1 or 2 units max, but for the industrial production, there still need to be a human resource capacity to be developed, and also very important, the financial resources seems also to be an issue. So in the following slides, as I mentioned, all about the Asian cities, I'll just touch upon the smaller, very briefly in 2 slides in our another region in Africa and Latin America. The first one in Africa, similar to the Asian case, it has also highlighted that the data collection on baseline scenario with IC pattern and preferences of transport operators is essential. So to understand local context is crucial, as it says, like here, no one size fits all. And also the pilot, as I mentioned, as a process of the Urban Living Lab pilot needs to consider the full ecosystem of transport services, not only in the vehicle itself, like if it's providing the paratransit services, then how paratransit services would work with for example, with the buses or train, and also other transport modes, and how this would create an impact on the transport system. And also in African case, also we also hear that there is a need to scale technical skill for maintenance, repair, and further local to create further local value or further local value creation. In Latin America, the Latin America highlights are there's a need of political will, which is also the case of other countries, other region as well. The capacity building and peer exchanges support not only on the importance to shift the electric vehicle, but also on the operation and develop the business model. So those capacity building and peer exchanges are very crucial. We also think that the gender gap in the transport sector could be overcome by including women in the technological transition. So I think this is valid also for other regions as well. As you see, like the women are fairly included or represented in the transport sector. A very interesting result on testing the e-cargo bike in Quito was that 5 out of 7 logistic operators are happy about the pilot and will continue using them. But however, due to the design and the perception of some of the female riders are negative. While in Montevideo, these e-cargo bikes received a positive response, but one female or old rider was negative due to the occurrence of accident due to trial phase. We have actually collected all the responses as well, the how vehicle and how it's the perception of those vehicles and so forth. So as you've heard, so as much as the Urban Living Lab project have greater impact, there are also various challenges such as organizational barrier, such as political will, as I mentioned earlier, and supporting legal and policy framework. Behavior barriers such as lack of public awareness and lack of engagement to take responsibility. Knowledge and process barriers such as lack of guideline and lack of skilled knowledge brokers, and also ethical barriers such as when the vehicle is developed. So for example, the intellectual property or IP issues, and also some industrial or privacy issues. So as a conclusion, I want to say that So we have discussed these 5 urban living lab principles and this 5 urban living lab framework, that's 5I framework. So with the experience of Solutions Plus, we see that local capacity is yet to be enhanced, technical and non-technical. So university courses plays a big role, because in some universities where in the cities in the cities where we are involved in, the electric mobility is still not as a main course in the university. They have the mechanical department but not electric vehicle itself. So I mean, this is still growing and improving. So maybe for the technical staff to be developed, the university plays a crucial role on that part. Secondly, the stakeholder engagement is a key. Without stakeholder engagement, the process would not be successful and also would not be taken forward. So active involvement of government agencies, community organization, academia, private sector, and civil society. So we have to bring all them together through the participatory process to promote ownership and to encourage, to lead to the shared vision and their goals. The third, the contextual analysis on the local context is very specific, no? So the contextual analysis on the operating environment in that particular city or the country is to be considered, and to tailor the experimentation or pilot to the specific local context. And also the robust monitoring evaluation is also required. For example, when we hear about those failed attempts and also those experiments, we learn from that, and then we fine tune the strategies and enhance the implementation project. So we also see that sometimes like 6 months of pilot might take 9 months. So depending on sometimes the conditions. So based on the local context and the expertise and also the type of the project, the sufficient time needs to be planned and dedicated to that activity. And also there has to be the feedback loop, no? So it's a kind of a cycle. And the another one is the full support from the political and institutional bodies. So this new technology has yet to gain a full support from the existing political and institutional bodies. So without this, we cannot go forward as well. But we also, on the other hand, we also support those institutions to develop the policies as well. So lastly, so to figure out the scalability and applicability plan for the success stories within the cities. So what are the projects that was well received? So for those success stories within cities, provinces, countries, region, and also inter-region, so we can see the potential to scale and replicate, and also seek the support for partnership for funding. With this, I would like to thank for listening, and happy to receive any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shritu. I think it's really valuable for us to learn more about the work of the Urban Living Lab Centre. It's clear that you have so many exciting projects taking place all over the world, and the clear synergies and learnings for ADB and partner organisations as well throughout Asia and the Pacific region. So thank you so much for that really interesting presentation. If there are any questions for Shritu, I please encourage you to post them in the Q&A, and we will get going, put them to Shritu. I think you might, not sure if you're still sharing your screen, Shritu, or not. There we go. I can see you again. It's fantastic. So just to kick things off, I know you touched on this in your slides, but I'm wondering in particular if you can tell us a little bit more about how you define success and measure the impact of a pilot project. I can imagine this varies from project to project and maybe based on sort of scale and type of project as well. I know you touched on impact assessment reporting, KPIs, challenges with ex post assessments. Yeah, but good to know the sort of balance of qualitative to quantitative measures, and yeah, anything we can learn really for what ADB or others may do.
Yes, yes, Tom. I have just briefly mentioned, especially also on the last slide on the success. So this is very difficult to define the success because we do not say that when the vehicle is ready, we do not say it's a success, or we do not say the success when all the participants says like. For example, the training is great, and this is just bits and parts, so we have to see the whole ecosystem. So as this complex urban living lab, especially solutions plus and those activities in different region, so as this is an urban living lab at the approach basis, so we consider the pilot project a success, or this whole living lab as a success when the project is well received by the local stakeholders, and there is a to implement and the willingness to scale it up, and also we see the potential of funding by the national and development organizations. So you see, like for example, as this case of Hanoi in Vietnam, we are still yet to define whether it's a fully successful or not. But a bit of success is that in that case we have the electric two-wheeler sharing system, which is the first of its case in Vietnam or in Hanoi. They just have like a ride-hailing system, but not a share system. So there has been a demonstration for 6 months, and the data has been collected on its operation and so forth. And to have a permit to operate it in the regular operation, Hanoi Department of Transport asks for a policy to implement it in a concrete way. So we have worked on the policy paper for this electric two-wheeler sharing system, together with, of course, with the partners involved in the project, and this was well received by the Hanoi Department of Transport. And as a second phase, this will be considered as a policy, and then will be implemented. This is a small success that we could see that. As I said, there's a whole cycle of understanding the living lab process, and see whether it's well received by the local government or local stakeholder, and also see the potential to scale it up. Yeah, I don't know. Thank Tom, if that answers your question.
Thanks, Shritu. No, it does. It does. And I just touch on that. I can imagine that when you have so many stakeholders, such a sort of breadth of stakeholders that you're engaging, that presents sort of various challenges as well. And again, you touched upon some of those. Are there any insights or successful techniques to stakeholder engagement that you can share that have worked especially well, that maybe you're replicating throughout projects as a matter of course, or anything you can share on that front?
The stakeholder engagement, basically, stakeholder engagement has been for various activities to get a feedback of the activities. Stakeholder engagement has been also, as I said, the consultation, feedback, and also to understand the situation, so the stakeholder engagement, so that's the local stakeholder engagement, but we are also taking this learnings or of this success, or I just say like the pilots, to another level. So we also try to reach out to the funding organizations to scale it up. Maybe, for example, if there is a development organizations working on e-mobility and try to look for the space to, you know, the how do I say, the area to connect. So maybe we also try to bring our project in that aspect and work together. Maybe in development organization, maybe like GIZ, in the NAMA facility, for example, or also with the ADB, for example, if there is a potential to work on. So try to bring that into the discussions, and also to have this pilot to be implemented, so to say. Yeah. Tom.
Thanks, Shritu. And yeah, if there are any questions coming to the audience, please do put them through. Interested to know really about the next steps for Solutions Plus. I know we were talking briefly ahead of this webinar about potential need for strengthening policies and local manufacturing, and also finance. Are these areas that you're actively looking at, and what can we expect to see coming down the line?
Yes, yes, Tom. This is the area that we are now looking for as a next step for Solutions Plus. As you have just asked earlier, the stakeholder engagement, the different stakeholder engagement, so forth. So the next step would be scaling it up, as I mentioned earlier. So looking for the financing, or supporting the cities to get the finance, and also on the business model and so forth. So that would be the next step, to have those pilots implemented on the real ground, so to say, on the full scale, so to say. Yeah.
Super. Thanks, Shritu. And you mentioned in your presentation about the role of universities as well, and educational establishments, and needing to sort of strengthen some of that. Maybe you talked about mechanical engineering focus, and maybe changing that. What would you ideally like to see from a university side? Is that sort of new departments with more of a policy planning focus? Is it dedicated units? Is it, you know, what would be the sort of ideal a take on that?
Yeah, I mentioned university because university is a platform, or the area to have the higher education, or qualified education, or technical education, right? So, for example, when we were talking in some of the universities, that in the cities that we are engaged in, so for example, even in Kathmandu, we have learned that there has been a mechanical department, and the students are working on electric mobility aspects as their elective, or as a thesis, or, you know, like there has not been detailed courses on that, or university courses. So I think as electric mobility is the future, and it is still growing, so university plays a big role in including in those educational platform. And I just want to touch upon our Living Lab Center approach also. So we are also collaborating with different universities in different regions, and also to bring the knowledge together within our Urban Living Lab platform as well. For example, the knowledge platform that we have developed through the projects, also through the input of different partners, because this is a very crucial or the knowledge that can be shared, that has been brought by the project. For example, we have this e-mobility toolbox, which could be used by anybody, which has a vast measure learning on the e-mobility, as well as we have global e-learning platform where we have this free e-courses, so anybody can join that e-courses. So I mean, those learning materials can also be included as a part of the learning from the university. So they are already for free, but then they can be also as their elective or as their learning process. So I mean, I'm sharing this thing because the learning material that has been developed doesn't need to be redone, so that anybody can use it in their context, in their needs, as per their needs, for example. So so for that, we are also developing a university network for this activity, engaging with the university. Yeah. Tom?
Thanks so much, Shritu. And conscious of time, we're pretty much at the end of our session, but I just wanted to ask if you could briefly touch on, well, I know, for example, the presentation today is focused on e-mobility, but I know there are various other activities that you undertake within the urban lab, and just wanted to give you an opportunity really to share some of those with us, because I know they'll be of interest to our audience as well.
Yeah, Tom, happy to share that. So we have, before Solutions Plus project, we have also worked on various other projects on different transport related, but not really e-mobility related, on the Urban Pathways e-key project. For example, a very interesting project was in Belo Horizonte in Brazil. So it's a very small project. For example, it's a living lab at a neighborhood level, where the team included, for example, the municipality, local community, waste management department, NGOs, and also the knowledge partners from the project. So we all work together for the sustainable, inclusive, livable neighborhood, testing the ecozone, coupling with this mobility-based and nature-based solutions. So there we had a successful trial to create a Zone 30 around the school area, raising the awareness among the community, and also we did the impact assessment with the that showed a strong how do I say it has been well received, so to say. So later, it was also made permanent. So this technical urbanism experiment on this Zone 30 area in the school area, this has been also made permanent in those areas, and also create safety around the school areas, and also it has also created or reduced air and noise pollution. Later, interesting part is that later it was replicated to another city, and also replicated at another country, even in Ecuador, Quito. The learning, the main idea for this Belo Horizonte project was that we had a very good local champion, so that the project has a good steering, and then lead to the success. If my time allowed, so we have also another project, a very small but very interesting project on air quality monitoring with locals using the mobile air quality device or sensors. So together with us, with Wuppertal Institute, Open Seneca, University of Helsinki, and Finnish Meteorological Institute, these mobile sensors were installed in various modes. So it's not like the air quality has been monitored by the static, but it was dynamic air quality monitoring, or data collection. So we have installed them in bus, in cycle, in various modes, like three-wheelers, as well as it was carried by the people, and see like what is the air quality in that area, particular area. And then actually we have tried this in the high emission zone, and see like what kind of air the people are breathing, right? So we have experimented this in various cities in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. And so for these local partners, including university, transport operators, as I mentioned, the cycling network group are actively involved. And then we see that the air quality level was collected at various time of the day, and the result was submitted to the local government to take the required action. So we see like people were also aware that what kind of air that people are breathing at what particular time and what particular location. So this has also been a very interesting project for us. Sorry, I'm beyond the time, I guess. Tom, back to you.
No problem at all. Thanks so much, Shritu. And I think it's important that we all understand and reflect that e-mobility is obviously an incredibly important part of the transport policy jigsaw, but there's it is just a part, and yeah, improving living standards through things like air quality improvements and behaviour change and modal shift as well is also just as important. So no, I mean, just to give a few closing remarks, really, I'd like to first of all thank you, Shritu, for your time preparing and presenting today, which have been really insightful and valuable, I think, and there's lots of materials and interesting projects there for us all to reflect on as we continue to go about our work. And just to highlight that the next webinar will be on electrifying petrol-powered motorcycles in Indonesia, so a two-three-wheeler angle by Michael Chang of Blue Wing Motors. So that's on the 19th of June at the same time. So thanks to everybody for joining, and the recording will be available beyond the ADB Transport YouTube channel in due course. So yeah, thank you everybody, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Shritu.